Good evening, parents, and welcome to tonight's parent evening. My team is telling me that tonight things are working. Once again, for those of you that were in our meeting on Thursday night and things just didn't go, there was just a technical error. We sincerely apologize once again, but we hope that this evening will go just as well, maybe even better. A time to read, teaching reading and spelling is really something that is greatly important to us, because without being able to read, school literally becomes a nightmare for some children. Interestingly enough, lots of children that already can read a little bit in grade 1, sometimes when we ask them, what are you scared of about going to school? They say, I'm scared I'm not going to learn to read. Learning maths or anything else at this stage of learning for some or other reason is not scary to them. But learning to read is one thing that children somehow, before even going to school, wonder if they will be able to master it. So for tonight, we're going to look at 4 different aspects. The one is the relationship between sound awareness and written language. And I just want, from the beginning, to highlight the word sound. Then we are going to look at mastering sound writing. Then we want to shortly look at what the teachers do while your children are with them in the classroom. But lastly, and very importantly, we want to look at what you could do at home to partner with your school, and even with Time to Read, to partner with us so that we can create proficient readers. Because at the end of every matric year, there is one common outcome where we tend to fail, and it is over and over again reading. So from our side, we feel very privileged that you are joining us in this incredibly important journey. Let's go to sound awareness and written language. The one area in your child's school career that is really researched intensively, even more than medical fields, is the area of reading. At the end of grade 3, beginning grade 4, there is a consistent outcome every year internationally. The faces of the children just change, but the outcome is the same. 40% of children excel at reading. They are kind of wired like, if I could compare it to Roger Federer learning to play tennis. He just has the balance, he's got the style, he's just got it. With some extra training, he becomes the world's top player. There are 20% of children that are on age. They cope. Better teaching obviously helps them cope better, or better methods that we use to teach. But generally, they cope. They are not the ones that are going to be the best readers, but at least they cope. What caught me by surprise was that 40% of children actually at the end of grade 3 are at risk. They don't read well enough to learn from their textbooks in grade 4, and neither can they spell well enough. If we would take the research into spelling, the figure gets exponentially higher. This begs us to question why. Why do we see 40% of children not reading well enough internationally at the end of junior primary school? So in the USA, the No Child Left Behind study, which involved 27,000 studies, that is a huge number in terms of a study being done for one single field. But the No Child Left Behind study came to the conclusion that 2 words, namely sound awareness, are the primary reason why 90 to 95% of these 40% of children can't read. So in other words, the 40% of children that are at the bottom lack an awareness of the sounds in spoken words. Interestingly enough, it's not the letters that we see. No, the field, it is in auditory discrimination. In other words, these children might hear normally, but what happens from when they've heard the word to the processing in the brain of what they have heard? That is where the problem lies. So 90 to 95% of these children that we would say are in the bottom 40, the problem is auditory before we even go to the visual. This begs the question, why? Why is an awareness of the sounds that we hear in words so critical in learning to read? The answer lies in how writing really works. So that's what we need to take a look at, because I think we can all agree when man was on earth, whether we want to say thousands or millions of years ago, they did not start communication through writing. No, man was speaking. Writing came later. Writing is invented by man. But speaking was first. So people were speaking about things like, for example, about birds. But for some other reason, man wanted to make his message permanent, because the words that we speak are over very, very quickly. So most probably man wanted to leave his story behind, and man also wanted to leave evidence behind. So what has happened is that man started to write. We all know ancient hieroglyphics, where the words that we speak, the ancient Egyptians drew pictures of them. But in time, things have changed. To draw pictures of what we talk about has limitations, because pictures, words like is, has, was, don't have pictures. So we would have to invent symbols. So people approached the way we put the words that we speak into print in a different way. What they saw is there is something common that the words in all spoken languages have, and that is the words can be broken down into sounds. It doesn't matter what language we speak. The words that we speak are made up of smaller little sounds. So people saw, if we hear the sounds in words, then rather than drawing pictures for the whole word, let's draw pictures for the sounds that we hear. And so in a word like bird, which has three sounds, b, d, parents, you might be noticing I'm not mentioning a B or an IR, because that's not what we can hear. We don't say the word BIRD. We say bird. And in bird, we hear only three sounds, a B and and D. So people decided, if we know the sounds of a language, let's rather turn the sounds into pictures, which we call letters or symbols. Then we can write any word. So we actually, at Time to Read, we calling it giving code to the sounds that we speak. So in other words, encoding them. And there was a group of people that decided, well, whenever we hear a B, that's the picture we're going to use. When we hear an we use two little pictures that look like that. And when we hear a D, it's exactly the inverse of the B. So obviously what we notice is that some sounds got only one letter, And some sounds got more. But that is the way the code works in most languages. The important thing is that the sounds were heard first, and then they were turned into the visual part. And this process we can call spelling, we can call it writing, or we at Time to Read call it encoding the sounds we hear into print. So lastly, we get to this important thing, which is reading. Now we see these symbols on a page. And the first thing we need to be able to do is we need to know what to say for each symbol. So in other words, we need to be able to decode or decipher these symbols. Children need to know when they see that symbol, they say B. For these two, they say one sound, and for this one, they say D. So that's decoding what we see, but then we're not finished because B, D is not a word yet. The children need to do something else. They need to involve an auditory processing skill again, which we call blending. Like blending a juice, putting everything together. We're blending them together. But what happens then is we are back where we started with the word bird. Ladies and gentlemen, can you see that there are two very important skills here? The one is segmenting the word, pulling it apart into what we hear, and that's for spelling. And the other one is just the opposite, blending what we read, together so that we get a word. And those two skills are first. Then we get to the visual part and understanding of symbols. But I think what makes this clear is that in South Africa, all 11 languages use the same type of writing. We write in sounds, which now answers the question. This is why an awareness of sounds is so critical. It was not important in ancient hieroglyphics or even in Chinese writing, but it's important in writing done like we do in South Africa. Now, once again, just to be clear, what do we mean when we say sounds? Now, sound actually comes from this Greek word phoneme, and phone, we all know, refers to what we hear, not what we see. And that is why when we turn our sounds into symbols, we don't call them B-I-R-D. We call them B-E-D, because that's what our little children hear. So sounds is what we do with our ears, and that is what we need to master first for a very important reason, because if children master to hear sounds and to blend them, they have a skill to work with letters. Let's look at that. If we start by reading letters first or even recognizing whole words, it means that these individual symbols there, the children have no understanding of them. And sometimes some children can maybe read B-E-D, but they can't put it together. So the order here is very important. Children need to first hear the phonemes or the sounds in words. So we segment, and then to read the word, we need to blend. So segmenting is a pre-reading skill for spelling, and blending a pre-reading skill for, segmenting is a pre-spelling skill, and blending is a pre-reading skill. Now, very important, which one comes first? Very important, segmenting and blending come first, because they enable children to work with letters, to use letters. If children can't hear the sounds in a word, they will have to memorize the letters in every word. They won't be able to have a skill of listening. What do I hear? And then write it. Or if they can read letters but can't push them together, they won't get to the word. So important, especially at this point in time, all grade R or grade naught and all grade 1 teachers. Now the focus is that your children master these very 2 important skills, segmenting and blending. We'll get to how you can help your children learn those skills at home in a moment. Then comes the visual part, the letters. The letters are just as important. It's just the order of teaching. If we want to administer the correct medication, the order of teaching now is paramount, especially for the at-risk child. We often also get the question, my child can already read. Should he or she learn to blend and segment? Yes, very definitely. If your child can read entering grade R or grade 1, you can be very thankful. That is amazing. But you know what is even better? If you can make your child fly. If your child understands why those 4 letters are in that word, you will see that your child is literally soaring. And secondly, grade 1 teachers, parents, I want to remind you that usually, even though your child has the knack for reading, spelling lags behind. So we strongly encourage to follow what your teachers tell you to do at the moment. Rather than pressing your teacher to give you reading books now, rather go to the library and read with them there. So, our amazing researchers have shown us the first deficit that 90 to 95% of these 40% children in red have at the end of grade 3 and 4 is firstly auditory. And we know why, because we write and read in sounds. So once again, if we address that deficit first. That is the medication. If we have done that, then kind of we have an equal playing field. And now we need to teach the symbols. And there we also very important that children not only learn symbols, but understand what they are. They need to know, if I can read my symbols, it makes me read words. If I can turn the sounds that I hear into symbols, I can spell. So therefore, at Time to Read, actually one of the only systems in the world, the understanding of symbols is paramount to learning to read and spell. We need to highlight something else, and that is that if children have the 2 sound awareness skills, blending and segmenting, and they understand how to teach sounds into symbols and to decode symbols back to sound, they have both. It's not auditory or visual, it's both. Then this beautiful word happens, which is called application. Because in the 21st century, we all know rote learning has no power to apply. But once children have both, they can apply their knowledge to other skills. Let's take that IR symbol, If they can read and all alphabet sounds, what they can read? They can read girl, dirt, first, skirt, shirt, and third. If they know sh and th, they can apply it to all of those words. Isn't that beautiful? We don't have to make them memorize them. All they do is, if they can't read it, they can go girl, dirt. But instead of guessing, instead of anxiety building up, they have a method. They know what I see in front of me. I know what it is. I might not be quite as fast yet, but the more I practice, the faster I'll become. Now, just to remind you that in English, there are some words that truly have no relationship or only one letter. Like in 1, it's only the N. In 2, it's the T. In U, the Y. And in the word I, there's nothing that has a relationship to what I see. So in English, there are about 30 to 35 true words that children have to truly memorize, but it's a small number. We don't have to turn bird into a sight word because that is completely decodable. So let's get to mastering sound writing. So what is the crux of the matter? What tools do we need to give to children to master sound writing? Well, on the one hand, it's the auditory. The auditory I do without even opening my eyes, and then it's the visual, the understanding of symbols. First, children have to hear every sound in a word. What do I mean by that? Well, for the word dog, they need to be able to hear the og. Moms and dads, not D-O-G. What is a P-I-G? A pig is not a P-I-G. We don't hear P-I-G. We hear P-I-G. Grade R parents, grade naught parents, grade 1, especially at this stage of the year, very important. Very important. We don't use the names of letters. They don't help us to get the answer. We use what we hear. If you're confused, I don't blame you. Ask your children. They will love to tell you. They love it if you pretend that you don't know. Also, just for those of you, I'm German speaking. So some of the short vowels, the a, the e, the I, the o, the a, are not the same in German as in English. So in German, when we have a word like apple, we say apfel, a. We don't say a. I think that happens in lots of African languages as well. It also happens in Afrikaans. But in English, we have apples. We don't have apples or apulas. We have apples. So that is an a sound. E is quite easy, but the I sound can be challenging because in South Africa, when we say bin and pin, can you hear that I is very much like the Afrikaans sound in and is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you will need to figure out or find out from your school how they teach that I sound. At the beginning, it's usually quite a clear in it sound, but in the middle, it can be confusing. Sometimes teachers do it the British way, and they talk about a pig and a pin just to make it clearer. Your children might talk like that for a little while at home, but they will quickly talk normal again. It's just to help your children hear that I very clearly. In a word like sheep, we want your children to hear sh, e, p. We don't want them to say S-H-E-E-P. That is not what we hear in the word. That's what we see. So we only hear sh, e, p. And then we have words like snake, where two consonants are next to one another. S, n, a, k. Important that your child can hear every sound, but that is for the end of grade 1, beginning, and then grade 2 and 3. That's not for grade 0 and not for the first term in grade 1. Once your child can hear every sound, then we need to teach them, okay, now when you hear that D in dog, watch, I can show you. It has a little picture. We call that picture a letter. Right, just as you can draw a picture of a dog, you can draw pictures of sounds that we were hearing. So that's quite a big thing for us teachers to teach them that, wow, all the sounds we've been hearing and blending, those sounds actually have little pictures. We just call them letters. So that's the D and the O and the G. Now, in English, as in most languages, the single sounds that we hear don't always have single letters, as we've already seen. So the sh has 2 letters, the E has 2 letters, the P has 1. Now, what we do at Time to Read to distinguish between the two, the children, we call this process of drawing dots and lines, we call it coding. So they code it with a line. So whenever they draw a line, we know that your child knows more than one letter. Then something, as far as I know, this only happens in English, the 5 long vowels A, E, I, O, U, those sounds sometimes are split. You see, they're both in yellow there. They're actually one sound. So what we do is we draw a little smiley there. We connect them, especially in grade 1 when we start to read. We connect them for the children. Now, this is what makes English very unique. That a sound like A has lots of different pictures or spelling choices. So in the word snake, we saw the two that were split, the smileys, we call them the smileys. In snail, the A looks a bit different. The A and the I are together, so they need a sound line. So if you listen to snake and snail, the A's are both in the middle of the word, but at the end of the word, the A looks different. It has a different picture, that it has an A and a Y. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see to teach the code in English takes time and it needs to be done carefully. There's a lot of discovery. We ask children a lot of questions about what they notice. We make them draw little T-charts where they compare and contrast. What do you notice in this row? What do you notice in that or column, in this column and that column? So we kind of really go quite deep with these little symbols so that children understand them. They understand this one is used at the end of a word, but those two go in the middle of a word. Now in grade 2 and 3, when your little ones learn longer words, they also learn that sometimes a letter looks the same. The letter Y in these 3 words looks exactly the same. But, oh dear, in yellow, it's a consonant. But in shy and in happy, it's 2 different vowels. And the colors kind of make that quite clear. That I is our, red is our color for long vowel I, and E is our color for green. So they look the same, but they have different sounds. Then actually what I wanted to say earlier, that longer words, we break them into claps. Because what happens if we break yellow into a clap? Yellow. It's much easier to spell a clap than what it is a big word. If we think of fantastic, if we break it into fantastic, much easier to spell. And that will help the children also learn lots of amazing little rules that will help them when they spell. Furthermore, once the children know the code, they need to become decoders. So they need to be able to say that's a D, that's a O, that's a G. And because we've taught them to blend, they can push them together. That's a sh, that's a E, that's a P. Very important. That's not SH, it's not SH, it's sh. That's E. It's one sound, and that's P. And then lastly, sn, A. That is not snake or snake. No, it is snake. Very important. The last skill that we want to address is manipulation. And I thought for that, the easiest might be to use our gaming app. We've got quite a nice activity in there to just show maybe, let's go to level 6. And here we have sound swap. And that is where our little children can manipulate sounds.
Change hot to hat.
So change
hot.
to
Hut.
hot to hut. Important, these short vowels are not very easy. So first of all, the children need to hear which sounds are correct, which are long. And on this little app, they can't make a mistake. Once they've got it correct,
change hut to nut. Hut
to nut.
Nut.
They've got to listen. Where is the sound that changes? And then they
change nut.
But if we would go to, for example, to grade 1, and we would maybe go to this A, then it is going to be a bit more difficult. Now we're going to go
change mouse to mouse.
Okay, so change mouth to mouse. And then they're going to change, oh, sorry, that was just at the end of an activity. Right, so, and in grade 2 and 3, let me put up the grade 3, it's even more difficult. Let's go to the A sound and let's do the sound swap. Here, they're going to
change broke to break.
Okay, so I broke, and now it is break time.
Change break to break.
Now it is the car that breaks. So in other words, we really focus a lot on homophones. Okay, that's what we really focus on, which you can see.
Change break to rake.
Okay, I'm going to leave that for the time being now. So ladies and gentlemen, you can see that as the manipulation is just changing one sound at the time. In grade R, very simple. Grade 1, 2, and 3, it really builds on that. So now what is done in school? So at the time to read school, in our syllabus, this is basically our syllabus on one page. The way we teach new learning is it works like a process of climbing stairs. New learning is always based on something that children have already learned. So we're adding one little step or one little brick at a time, so that all the cognitive focus, the focus of the brain, can be on one new skill. The rest is prior knowledge. It's mastered. We're doing it one little skill at a time. Now, so that is why the way we work is we start our lesson by always revising what children have already learned. So for 5 minutes, we go back to prior learning, we flash symbols, we write symbols, we read word lists. But what is important is if a child was absent, there is time to catch up. Maybe 5 minutes isn't always enough, of course, but there is time to catch up and make sure that every child is on board. When we teach something new, it is that one extra brick or that one extra new step. And we've got 4 little steps to teach the symbols. Children say a word and sound it out. Then they code each little sound with dots and lines and smileys. Then they add the letters, and finally they read it. This is just to give them, whenever they encounter a word that they can't write, they've got a strategy. They've got something to hold on to. If children have a strategy to get to an answer, it reduces anxiety. But the important thing is once we teachers have taught something, it's not necessarily in their brains yet. It often is still on the board. So now we need to do little things to help our children assimilate that learning so that it is their own. In grade 1, 2, and 3, we make sure that everything we do in English is around, it's all integrated. We want to do handwriting and sentence construction, everything together. So for that, your children have some workbooks. We have in grade 2 and 3, we've got a phonics and a language book. We also have some handwriting books. important that everything ties together. We don't want to teach in isolation, because otherwise children don't understand what is the purpose of what I'm doing. We don't want them to be confused. Now we come to the important part. What can you do at home? Now, this question is often, is there anything I teach my child about classwork? Parents, that should not happen. If you feel that your child has homework and the child doesn't understand it, well, definitely don't try not to help them. I'm not saying that, but very important, write a letter to the teacher and say, I had to help my child a lot. My child did not understand. Teaching happens in the classroom. Consolidation happens at home. I know there are some schools that don't do any homework. I just want you to take note for reading. Please take note. No homework has a 34% retention of what was done in class the next day. A little bit of revision. Now, we're not saying, please, 2 hours. No, it's about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes at home has a 78% retention. So that is a huge difference. So we encourage you, if your children are learning to blend and segment in class, please help at home. We'll show you in a moment how to do that. If your children are learning symbols, please help at home. You will never be sorry. You will never, ever be sorry. So grade R, grade naught parents, this first term focuses around teaching your children sound and awareness. In other words, to blend and segment. Your children are not learning letters. Please don't be upset with us. It's just simply, we want to ensure that every child has these fundamental skills, which will, up until when we see high school children that can't read, we go back to these skills. And we don't want to teach some children and others not. Every child needs these two skills in order to become proficient spellers and readers. Very important at this stage. These are the skills which will enable your children to use and understand letters. It's the key. So at the beginning, we will ask you, what sounds can you hear in cap? What is a cap? What sounds can you hear in led? He led the group. Or what word can you hear if I say led? Now, at this stage of learning, that for some children is very, very difficult. And that's why we have something called our planning app. So parents have access to this planning app. It costs 300 Rand for the year or 30 Rand a month. It's not compulsory at all. It's completely voluntary, not compulsory at all. When you open it up, this is the parent version. It's the grade 2 version. I'm not changing the grade at this stage. I'm going to the teacher's version, which what you will notice is includes planning. Now, the planning is not what you teachers need. What you parents need. You parents need access to activities to help your child understand and master these two important skills, blending and segmenting. So on our app, if you would go to printable resources, has some games and things that you can copy for your children. But what's very important for us are these 3 steps in teaching your children to blend and segment. Step 1 is where you will notice this is a little interactive activity, which means it's that your child can do something. There is soft music in the background. You can make it full screen, or you can reduce the screen. But what happens here is that your child will listen to the first 2 sounds of the words combined and then the last sound. So this is the word
Nap.
That's the word.
Wag.
That's the word.
Mat.
Now your child has to listen.
Mat.
What is a mat? Here we go. If your child is wrong, not a crisis, they will know that they're wrong. Oh, what is this?
Ma.
Ma. Oh, what is that?
Wa. G.
Wag. Once you feel your child can do that, then we go to the next step. Then we turn the two around. Now your child will need to do the opposite. First, listen to the sound.
App.
App. So if you don't know the words,
Max. Hat. Lap.
so what is a
App.
app? Is a lap. And that is how we go. And so on. So we walk through there are 9 little pages like that. You can see on the side, we have a bar that helps them know where they are. I just need to get to the last page, because then what we do is we take the pictures away completely and see if your child can do it even without any pictures. So here, click play.
X.
X. And then if the child says Max, they can click on the frame to see if they were correct.
At.
At. Very good. Your child was correct. So that was first step 1. We gave them the big part first, ka, pa, and then we turned it around, and then only towards the end of the term do we expect them to listen to all 3 sounds, like, sorry, just want to make it louder.
Pa. S. D.
So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there is a chronology to follow. And if you follow these 3 steps, your children most likely will be there at the end of the term. So for us, that is very, very important. These 2 skills are the foundation on what our writing is built on. So they need to master these skills. Once we get to teaching letters in term 2 to 4 or 2 to 3, whatever, whether you're a 2 or 3 term schools, what happens if your child can hear the k and the a and the p? Now learning the letter makes so much sense. They understand, oh, that is just a picture for what I've heard. Just like I can draw a picture of the whole word, I can draw a picture of a sound. So don't be impatient now. Let's first give them what is very important, and then we go to letters. And lastly, for grade R and Nord, please don't teach them the names of letters at this stage. They're not writing any big words. They need them full. So here, for example, we've got an activity for sun. We don't want your children to be reading fluently at the end of grade R. We just want them to be able to say is sun, or it is met, or wig is wig, and top is top. That's all we want for them, and then they will be really ready for the challenges that lie ahead in grade 1. Now, grade 1 parents, I want to assure you there is no magic dust falling from the door onto your children's head that turns them into magical readers. No, actually, there's a lot of teaching involved. And I want to really ask you to follow the lead of your teacher. If you want your child to have little readers at this stage, please go to the library. But this is a critical stage. I know we all want our children to be little Einsteins, but remember, number one in the class is only reserved for one poor little child that has to perform year upon year upon year. Please be patient. If your child needs a bit of extra time, your attitude now determines a smooth or a rocky journey. I want you to be patient with your children. If they still blend a lot, allow them. By you becoming upset, you are just going to make it worse. I promise you. But by the end of the year, if you give us a bit of patience now, you will be amazed at what your children can read. In these past 2 weeks, your teachers have been doing a little assessment to see, are your children ready for letters? Can they blend? Can they segment? If not, we really ask that you help. This skill now it's actually a skill that children acquire at the age of 5 to 6, and that's why we do it in grade R. Now it needs to happen. It usually happens quite fast if done in those 3 steps. So you can contact us if you even want access to the grade R part of our app. But what we do now is we revise all the letters of the alphabet again. Why? Well, there are new children in a class, but secondly, remember I said in grade R, it's okay if children go, it's actually all we want. They go k, ap, cap. They blend with letters. Now we want to move from blending to reading. And that is quite a huge step. So what we do is we use all the letters that the children have learned in the class, and we read short words. So let's go to the grade 1 part of our planning app. Let's go, for example, let's start with cat mop. And although there are quite a lot of activities and games that you can play at home here, there's even a little paper reader there for you. The first one is very, very limited. It only has access to 6 little letters, but you can print it at home. We've got 2 interactive activities for these 6 letters. And this one is actually a little bit of an old one, which we didn't want to just let to go to waste because it's actually quite cute. We can just turn around a card here, k-app, and the children go cap. Or t-opt, they go top. Now they can also turn it around again. So it's a very cute activity that we actually like quite a bit. They also read tiny little phrases, mom. If they go mom, very happy at this stage. Here, mop. But as we go through the weeks, these become quite a bit harder. Here we have 3 little activities for them. One we call perfect match. I think that was the one we just had. But we are also introducing, apart from the little paper reader, where's our paper reader here? This paper reader, as you can see, the reading gets quite a bit more, but the children know every single letter. And what we call that is, if a child struggles to read a word, it's decodable. Your child has a strategy. It never has to guess. It never has to be scared. And that's what we're after. But we also, with our interactive readers, here we have, for example, a puzzle reader. It's taking a bit of a time to load. Here your children read little sentences, and as they read them, a picture will appear for them as they go along. And it's a little puzzle, it can rot. Once again, if your children go just calm down, they will get to fluency. You will see it will start happening in April, May. I promise you, it will happen. And so vocabulary, parents, you can help a lot with that. We are putting on purpose some words in that are not that common. Because this year at Time to Read, one of our huge focuses is that children understand the words that they read. We always want a love for reading. I agree, that is hugely important. But children will not enjoy reading if they don't understand the words that they are reading. Really important. In term 2 to 3, that is now where children start to read these things called digraphs. Di means two, and graph means a symbol. That is when they start to read the sh and the e, those type of symbols. So they will read words containing those digraphs. And once again, that we want them to understand the words that they blend and read, like the sh in shop or ship or fish, or the a or the ow. Important. Highlighted. Parents, can you see? I need your attention. In grade 1, these symbols are taught only for reading. The spelling test with these symbols follows in grade 2, not in grade 1. But if your children can learn to read lots of these digraphs, oh my goodness, they learn to read so much. Let me show you where we are heading towards the end of the year. Now you can look with me that there are quite a lot of symbols that we teach. We teach a few a week because all we want to teach the children what to say when they see them. For those of you that have our homework book, grade 1 parents, that happens after we give you some letter tiles. Here we explain the part 2, and there are some letter tiles for you, but now they're going to read these words containing the digraph. Very important. For those of you that do have the app, we want to encourage you at home in grade 1 to really actively participate in this that we call word building. It's this little activity, ladies and gentlemen, your children cannot make any mistake. All they need to follow the lead.
Shop.
So here, what sounds can you hear in the word shop? Okay, it's one clap, shop. But now in shop, how many sounds are there? 3. Sh, o, p, shop. Then let's code it. Sh has 2 letters. It needs a line. O and p have 1 letter. And now we can spell. There is our sh. A, very important short vowel. And finally, drag the p. Right, so this is an amazing activity to develop.
Now let's spell mash.
Right, we won't spell mash now, but this is what your children will be reading towards the end of August. Sorry, here are the interactive readers. I see some of them aren't on yet. Let me try here. Here we go. Here we have some interactive readers, and that is about towards May. Your children should be reading something like this. Just a little action when they read, some very short phrases they've learned ow. Especially for children that aren't very fluent, a short little phrase is wonderful for them to read. Here they blend a word in word families. And then there are also some pages where they read a whole sentence and they have to choose the correct picture. You will notice that sometimes with the pictures, we've tried to make them a bit confusing so that they have to look deeply. Right, now teaching these digraphs for reading in grade 1, we did a study in 2022, a study where we were monitored. We assessed the children. They were grade 2 children. We took them 3 times a week for an hour. And those symbols, we assessed them knowing their symbols before the time and after the time, within 3 months. You can see they knew their symbols very well. Their word reading improved quite a bit, but ladies and gentlemen, what really improved was reading sentences. In those 3 to 4 months, there were 3 weeks holidays in between. Some of them improved 16, 18, 14, 15, 13, 15, 21, 20 months in a matter of 3 to 4 months. These were grade 2 children. So, ladies and gentlemen, grade 1 parents, we want to ask you, please help your teachers that your children memorize these very important symbols. Now, lastly, grade 2 and 3. Here, these symbols that we've learned, the sh and the e and the r, now those are the ones that are going to appear in spelling tests. Finally, and we are also going to make our words much longer that we read. Those words are going to become much longer. We will also have, very importantly, we will have words in there, maybe like decorate, maybe words like document your findings, just to teach our children words. We really are adamant that our South African children need words. They will use those digraphs to read long words, but we want them to understand that they're words to read. Your children will also be learning spelling rules, ladies and gentlemen. We want them to understand why these rules happen. Very important. So from my side, that is my story. If you liked us, please consider following us on Instagram or Facebook and give us a like. If you didn't like, please rather send us an email. We promise we will take that email serious, and we always want to improve. But we hope that this meeting was meaningful for you, that you understand time to read a little bit better. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to email us. We've got an info@time-to-read email address. You can email either Michelle or myself. Maybe she's putting, I'm not sure. This YouTube chat is always confusing for me. Maybe she's putting it in the chat. I'm not sure if she can. But you're welcome to reach out to us. We really welcome that. But most of all, ladies and gentlemen, we wish your children so well. We feel honored to be partnering with you. And we contact us if things aren't going the way that you hoped. We really wish you the very best. Thank you very much.